Welcome to 2x4Hardcore, Episode 18, Mili Monk and Final Bosses. Hey guys, on this episode, I'm going to be having a discussion with Mili Monk, and we're going to talk about why he chose Mili over Divine, what skills he recommends, and other stuff along those lines. Also, he's going to talk to me about 2 hardcore iPhone games that he plays and wanted to discuss on the show. After that discussion, I'll be showing 2 final bosses from Infinity Blade 2 and a boss in Order in Chaos, and you'll see which one that is. Finally, I'll end the show with a few Grand Theft Auto missions. I hope you guys enjoy the episode. So, for the Order in Chaos conversation today, I'm going to be having another Spec Interview.
Hi, I'm SmoakEater.
And you're on the Whispering Island server?
I am on the Whispering Island server.
And you said you have 3 monks, correct?
Yes, I have a Divine, I have a PvP Spec Mili, and then I have a Dungeon Support Mili.
Alright, nice. So we're just gonna basically talk about what new level 60s should expect in a military monk, or if divine monks are tired of dungeoning and want to switch to milis. So first of all, why did you choose military monk over divine? Did you start as a military monk, or did you switch with your first character?
Well, with my first tune, I leveled up as a military hybrid. Mm-hmm. And when I got to 60, I went full military, and I enjoyed it, but it was hard to get a dungeon run, so I decided I would change over to Divine. Mm-hmm. So my first monk, I made a Divine, and I got all the gear that a Divine monk needed, and I totally failed at being a healer, and I just couldn't get the hang of it, and I found out later it was part of my spec, and partly my gear, but I just didn't enjoy it as much, so I went back to the military.
When I made a monk, I leveled up as a divine, and that seemed to be a lot easier for me. I know that a lot of people have said that monks are hard to level up, but I did it in about 2 weeks as a divine. And when I got to level 60, there were already dungeons, because I've heard a lot about military monks, and it seems to be harder, because you guys don't have divine breath, so I've stuck with divine monk this whole time.
Well, when I leveled up my third monk, I leveled it as a divine, and it was a lot easier in the long run. It was a lot cheaper. I didn't have to buy as many pots. I had lots of mana because I had divine breath.
Yep.
And I could heal myself, so it took a little longer to kill the mobs. But when I leveled my divine, I had Mantis Cudgel, had the Fire of Faith and all that, and so it wasn't that hard. It was easier leveling divine as opposed to military, and it took a lot less gold.
Yeah. So for new level 60s, or for people who are respecing to military, what are the most important skills that you recommend?
Well, all of my milis right now are hybrids. Uh-huh. I have a 3125 spec on both of my militaries right now. If you're going to go full military and go all the way out to Deities Infused, which is everyone hates because it's 15 seconds that you cannot be killed. If you're going to go that route, then you're going to want all of your brews, and you're going to want all of your Lion King Strike. And I never really paid attention much to the skill that gave you mana back. Breath regulating, I never put much stock in that, because if you're doing PvP or you're doing duels, it's going to be over too fast for you to waste 5 points in that. Mm-hmm. At least in my opinion. So that empty body and breath regulating, I kind of ignored those. Because empty body gives you dodge and parry better chance, and breath regulating works with that to give you some of your mana back, to restore some of your mana. I put my skills when I was full military into martial knowledge. It increases your crit. You want to go big crit, especially if you're doing a duel or in PvP. If you get a chance to stun your opponent, then you want to have high crit because you want it over with quick, because a military monk is a mana hog.
Yeah.
And when you're done, in PvP you can pot. In duels, it's not considered fair play to use a pot. If you're doing PvP on a team and you have a healer in your team and they can divine breath you, then you'd be all good. But you want to have high crit. If you're going to go full bird military, you want high crit. So you're going to want martial knowledge, natural body, of course you're going to want that. Inner force, which gives you armor for every point of strength and agility that you have. Either way you go, if you're going to go total PvE, you might want to upgrade your Tiger Claw Strike more than once. Tiger Claw Strike, and then you upgrade it to Fistmaster. I have had both Fistmaster and the Mantis Cudgel. I've had them all totally upgraded, and it didn't do a lot for me. It just wasted points. I upgraded both of those just once, just put a point in each of those upgrades to give me both a stun and give me the chance at the triple hit. Other than that, it's a waste. Spirit Chasten, if you're going full bird military, you're going to want Spirit Chasten because it does increase your mana. You want to have a high amount of initial mana, and you want a high amount of initial armor and initial stamina. Military monks are all about quick takedown. If you gave a military monk all the skills they normally have plus divine breath, they'd be nearly unstoppable. You'd have to have a ranger stun lock you to death to not be able to win a fight.
Yeah, but I think if PvP arenas came out, Divine Breath would be really helpful for melee. But the monk should be focusing on the mage, because he's the one who does AoE damage. The Divine Monk couldn't always Divine Breath the military monk.
It just all depends, I guess. I mean, if you had a full military monk in a PvP arena, it could be a trade-off. You might have a tank, you might have a melee, you might have a divine, you might have a ranger.
Yeah.
If you have a military monk and a mage in a team, no matter what you're doing, somebody's going to miss out on a divine breath. It's all about being a team. And if you gave a military monk all the skills that they have right now, plus divine breath, it would be like a warrior that never runs out of morale, or a ranger that never runs out of vigor.
Yeah, that's true.
It'd be way too overpowered. Not that I wouldn't enjoy having that, but everybody else would complain.
Although, if they had a level cap to level 70, then we'd get more skill points anyways, so I think some people would have access to Divine Breath, and also even Divine Monks would have access to some of the military skills, so I mean that could even it out.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
that would all even out. If everybody had new skills, new points for skills, then yeah, it would even out then. If I could get my deities infused and get Divine Breath, I would certainly go back to more of a full bird military situation.
So as of right now, you'd recommend anyone to be a hybrid melee monk instead of just a full melee monk?
If you want to get into a dungeon, you need to be a hybrid.
All right.
And you need to be a support build. Military monks, hybrid monks, it was hard for them to get into a dungeon before the last update and the last pull fixes and all that, because you need a ranger to pull the bosses, you need a mage to clear, you need a tank to tank, and you need a healer to heal. There was no place left for a military monk, unless that military monk knew how to pull bosses. I can pull bosses on my military monk, but it's a real pain in the butt to do. Now that the bosses can no longer be pulled, the teams can be a little bit more even because you don't have to have a ranger to pull. You need a healer, you need a tank, and you need 2 DPS. It used to be you need a healer, you need a tank, you need a mage, and you need a ranger. But it's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
But if you're going to run a hybrid monk, especially now doing Aristar's Temple, you need to have a military monk who has ring and who has rapid healing and all that, or you're not going to get through the harpies at the end with the dragons. So.
Yep.
Or you're going to have to run 2 divines, which lowers the amount of DPS that you're going to do.
So you're a hybrid military monk, so do you have different pieces of divine gear and military gear?
I use a combination, and I use different sets on my PvP spec and then my dungeon spec. So on my dungeon spec, I carry two sets of gear with me. I carry the room gear upgraded. I have the hood, I have the shoulders, I have both the Holy Punisher's gloves and the healer gloves, and then I use the healer legs and the military shoes. So everything is military except for my legs when I'm doing DPS. If we're going through Airstar's temple, once we get through and we get to the dragon, then I switch over to heal gear, and then my heal gear is just a plain healer of godhood. It's not upgraded, and I use a splendid witch image on the shoulders because it boosts your healing power by 24. Then I switch over to the epic healer gloves, and of course I already had the epic legs. You want when you're hybrid. You want a mixture of good wisdom gear and then good crit gear and hit gear. You don't want to go all one or the other because you don't have a lot of wisdom, you're not going to have as much mana, and it's great to have higher hit points or higher attack power. But if you want to try a hybrid spec, then you want to not upgrade those books. But hybrids are so great in a dungeon, especially if you have a new healer or you have a new tank, because if the healer can't keep up, or the tank is getting hit too hard, then the hybrid can switch from doing the DPS on the mobs to healing or throwing out rings to help out the healer.
Yeah.
And my healer has res, so in the instance of like going through ET, and you get to the dragon and the tank dies, which invariably happens. If you don't have a hybrid that has res, your healer has to decide: am I going to try and keep everyone alive, or am I going to res? Because you got one or the other. You don't have both options.
One more question I have about hybrid is in dungeons, if you're mostly spec'd melee, then you can't get to the prayer of pure faith. So how do you survive dungeons without that?
How do I survive?
Without the prayer of pure faith? Like if you're healing on a hybrid.
Well, because hybrids aren't the main healer.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I have healed with my hybrid in say arcade. You just have to when the final boss flies, everyone has to run. It's simple as that, because you don't have prayer. But I have successfully healed with this hybrid in the dungeon with the ring. My military hybrid, my PvP hybrid, does not have ring. I use those points and other things.
All right.
And then I have totally different gear for him. So.
What are your hopes for military monks in the future? Are there any new skills or gear that you think GameLoft might add?
Well, as for hopes for gear or skills, this is actually the first MMO that I've ever played, so I'm not real familiar with this style or this particular type of class in other MMOs. I don't know what other skills that there are out there because I've never played another MMO. Give us something more specific just for military monks. Like, for instance, the claw. Give me a better fist weapon. It doesn't have to be the claw. Give me a fist weapon that a warrior and a ranger can't roll on, because I've had this argument many times. The claws are made for military monks, but the rangers say no, we can equip it, and the warriors say no, we can equip it. Well, that's great, but I can't equip a two-handed sword. I can't equip a bow. There's lots of things that I can't equip, but everything that we have, pretty much everyone else can equip. Give me a better fist weapon that doesn't have to be as good as the claw, but it has to be better than the katars.
I think that GameLoft should just make it so that they're physically not allowed to roll on it,
Well, yeah, but for instance, with the claws, like the Bloody Claw and Kermode's Claw, both of those are for warrior, ranger, or monk.
Yeah.
So right now, those classes are allowed to roll on it because those classes can use those. Give us something that the warriors and the rangers can't roll on.
Won't want to roll on.
Or won't want to roll on. There are things that mages can roll on that monks can roll on, but monks don't, because like the Viraji staff, some monks have it. Most monks won't roll on it because it's really not a big use to them. Give us a fist weapon or something like that's like that. They won't want to roll on it because it's not going to be as good for them, and it's going to be really good for a monk.
I think that's pretty much it for Military Monks. Quickly, I wanted to talk about 2 other games. You said you wanted to talk about these as well, and it's Modern Combat 3 and Real Racing 2. So, do you think these are true console quality games, and do you think there's going to be sequels to them?
I'm sure there will be a sequel to both of them, because both of them are sequels right now as it is.
Yep.
Modern Combat 3 is very close to console quality. On an iPad 2, it looks really good. It plays out well, but as far as console quality, it's very close. I would love to see them have an option where you can have actual clans and you can have actual groups. So when a group goes together to go find a server or a game to get into, all your friends that are in your group are all going to be on the same team. That way, you could be using TeamSpeak or something like that and play your game and use better tactics like you do on Modern Warfare. Or if they gave us the possibility of having regular chat like you have on Modern Warfare or Modern Warfare 2. I don't know if the iPad can handle that. If you like racing simulators, you've got to go with Real Racing 2. Real Racing, the original one, is still a very good game, and the game mechanics work much the same. If anyone's ever played the Asphalt 6 Adrenaline, which I just bought because it was 99 cents and I wanted to try it out, Asphalt 6 has nothing on Real Racing. As a matter of fact, I deleted Asphalt because it was such a childish game.
Yeah.
But Real Racing 2, if you like racing games, I would recommend it.
Yeah, I know that they put a lot of time and effort into Real Racing 2. It came out a year ago, and I believe they spent like $2 million on it to make the graphics really good. And within a couple months, they had a multiplayer update. They had to actually ask the makers of the cars if they could use them in the game. So they used real licensed cars, and they tried to make it as realistic as they could. So if a Real Racing 3 came out, I'm sure it would probably work well with whatever the iPad 3 is. And it'd probably have even better graphics, better multiplayer, and I'm sure they'd work really hard on it as well. So I was really satisfied with that game last year.
So have you actually played the Real Racing 2?
Yeah, I put a couple months into it when it came out in December last year, and I got a pretty expensive car, so.
Yeah, I recently beat the game and got the best car in the game, which is a 1995 McLaren.
Nice.
And I'd almost beat the game on my iPad, and I put it down for a while. And then when I got my iPad 2, I transferred everything over. I updated iCloud, transferred everything over, and none of my game saves were on. I had to start all over again.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that because all of my game data is on the iPod, so I'll just have to start over if I play Real Racing on here.
Yeah, and something else to consider with Real Racing, I don't know if you do it on the iPad 1, but on the iPad 2 you can hook it into your television.
Oh, okay.
And play on TV, and you can do 4-man multiplayer with split screen on your TV.
Oh wow.
And the iPad is nothing more than a controller. So wow. That's pretty cool.
So thanks for coming on the show today, SmoakEater.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
So right here, I am at the Elemental King Zone. This is the final boss I thought of to talk about on the show for Ordering Chaos. His spawn time is about 3 hours, and he's surrounded by these level 60 guards, which are really easy to defeat. He's in this pool, and you basically just have to wait there for the spawn because he spawns from 2 to 3 hours. And there's not an exact time for it, so you basically just have to wait there. And what I did here was just kill some guards and wait here and eat food in the meantime. And eventually he appeared and I got it on camera. He took a few minutes to get down. It was just me and a tank fighting him with a ranger on the other team in the background. We got him down pretty easily. Alone, he'd destroy me, but with a tank, it's a lot easier. And usually there'd be a lot more people there, but we got the Elemental King at a good time where there weren't a lot of people. So he doesn't really do any special moves. He just attacks the one who is maintaining aggro. And when you get him down, he drops a few blue items. Usually these items range from heart forgers to symbols, mainly general symbols. And right here he dropped a blue bow, and he dropped a general symbol. So I hope you guys liked watching all these boss segments on Order and Chaos. And if in the future the devs add more bosses to the game, or more dungeons that I can show bosses in, I will definitely do that. So, as promised, today I'm going to show the Infinity Blade 2 level 100 boss. Now, you'd think that this boss would be the final one to defeat, but there's actually a little bit more of a storyline after this, which I will show next episode. But right here, you see my character talking to a soldier, and he's like taunting him, and the soldier gets in this big suit of armor, and it's this big robotic looking thing, kind of like the boss from the first one. Now this boss does the same kind of attacks as the two I've shown before, the big monster guys. He stomps down, and he does a sort of slash to the left or right, so you have to know when to dodge. For when he steps down, you have to dodge the opposite way, and when he slashes, you have to dodge the way from where his claw came from. And when he smashes his hands together, you have to do the middle dodge button. Now this is for dual wielding. I imagine for hand and shield, you would have to use the shield for the slashing attacks and dodge normally for the other attacks. You can't do parrying with this boss, unfortunately, so you have to just try to survive all his attacks. And make sure that you have a healing ring on, because that's really helpful. So I basically just used a few super attacks and tried to dodge as many of his attacks as I could while using the healing spell. And eventually I got him down to critical health, and I finished him off. He dropped a large key and some nice gold. And after that, you see a tiny cutscene where your character sticks your hand into another hole and he dies once again. And after that, you'd start at the beginning of the castle. Now, this is actually not the end of the game. So next episode, I will be showing what happens after you get to the room again through the castle, what lies beyond that. So for Grand Theft Auto today, I'm just going to show a couple of missions. The first mission here, you have to take a car and pick up a suitcase, and the mission is called the Pickup. When you are getting the mission, he tells you what the suitcase has, but I usually skip that part. So basically you just have to drive to the suitcase, and then once you get there, there's some people there trying to beat you up, so you have to just try to kill them all. Yeah, it's not a real complicated mission, and it's not really different from the other missions that I've shown because, I mean, there's basically always a car involved. I mean, technically you could walk there to get a suitcase, but most of the missions do incorporate a car because they're either far distance or part of the mission is using a car. The second mission that I tried to do was at one of the mission givers. And when I got there, it said that he's not open during the night. So that's pretty cool that they incorporated the day and night cycle into the missions. But unfortunately, you can't just do certain missions at certain times because of the limit for that. So I just went around town with my car and just ran people over and caused mayhem, pretty much. So that's all the Grand Theft Auto gameplay I have for the rest of the season. In Season 2, after this 1 month break that I'm taking, I will be showing how much further I've progressed in Grand Theft Auto since this episode. And hopefully there will be more interesting stuff in the world of Grand Theft Auto. So for now, that's all the Grand Theft Auto gameplay I have for you guys. Alright, and that's a wrap for the episode for today. This weekend, I will be releasing episode 19, hopefully on Sunday. I know I've had a lot of delays recently. On episode 19, I'm going to be showing you guys some of the things that I've promised in the past. Like, I'm going to show the final Infinity Blade 2 gameplay, Combat Arms Zombies. I'm going to give my review on Galaxy on Fire 2, and I'm going to talk about 2 updates that just came out for games that I talk about on this show, and you'll find out what those are next week. Also, on episode 19, I'm going to be talking with a tank, and that segment is going to be a makeup for the one that I did that a lot of people didn't like in episode 10. And I'm going to have tips and tricks segments for episode 19 and 20, which I had promised before. And episode 20, I'm hoping, will be out on February 29th, right before March. And I'll have tips and tricks. I'll announce the logo contest winner. And if you haven't already submitted, there's only a few days left. And I'll give my final speech on Season 1. And my hopes for games, and my hopes for Season 2. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I can't wait to see you guys on Sunday.